Hey, I'm Robbie Kramer. You're listening to the Leverage Podcast, where we discuss using your social skills to hack dating, travel, finding your dream job, and becoming a complete man. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. And today we have a very special guest, a longtime friend of mine named Robert Vitelli. And Robert is the #1 international best-selling author with 24 years of experience in the fields of personal growth, psychology, and the motivational industry, and has been called one of the breakthrough masters of our time. Robert is also the creator of the Modern Male program and coaches men in experiencing accelerated breakthroughs and astonishing growth in the areas of dating, sex, self-confidence, and personal power. And he's also been featured in True Wealth Magazine, USA Today, CBS, Money Watch, Fox, NBC, ABC, as well as any other major media outlets. So great to have you on the show, Robert.
Great to be here. Great to be here, Robbie. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So we met a long time ago. I think it was back in 2000. I want to say 2007. Does that sound about right? 2006, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, at an event, I think, with or through our buddy Brian in the men's personal growth dating space. So it's been almost 14 years, I guess, or something close to that, right? So,
yeah, it's been a while.
But for those of you people listening who don't know you as well as me, give us a background on your story and how'd you get into all this stuff?
Well, wow. I think being brought up by a single mom, I think at a deficit growing up as far as, dating skills and interpersonal relationships and social skills. It really just motivated me to find mentors and teachers. So I, in my teens started doing all the personal growth workshops with Jim Rohn and Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins, all the old school, motivational personal growth speakers to just grow and, learn what it is to be a success or a man and have some kind of, confidence or personal power. Because to be frank, I didn't have much at all. I was pretty insecure. I was brought up, like I think many people, in a pretty dysfunctional home with an alcoholic single parent, and does wonders for your self-esteem.
I was lucky enough to not experience that, but I know a lot of people who have, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty common epidemic globally, I think, with alcohol and drug abuse and things that are not talked about, in the household with so many families. And you definitely, I think, probably are one of the anomalies and lucky ones for sure. It as I identified and saw a lot of these deficiencies in my character and my personality and my confidence, I sought, mentors and teachers and coaches that could, help me grow and expand, my skill sets and my confidence and personal power. And the journey started, and now 20 some years later, it's been an amazing experience to, be able to support other, people. I've worked, with men in 17 countries now, around the world, getting a chance to, support them and have an experience or a series of experiences to, have them wake up to their own power, to wake up to, their own sense of, value, of worth, of giving them skills of communication and persuasion and, social dynamics and skills to help them create the outcomes and the goals they want in every area of their life, whether it be women and dating and a better sex life or confidence and, and experiencing their own, power and sense of, worth that we naturally have. And it's just been an amazing experience to, support and witness, men's growth and people's growth and accelerate it, in a much faster process than maybe you and I had to go through in our experiences, because speed and time and accelerated, I think, growth is really important to people these days to get the fastest results they can that are lasting.
Right. Yeah, it's been cool to kind of follow along to see what you've been up to for all these years. You've been successful in so many different kind of niche markets when it comes to sales, dating stuff, personal growth, development. So I feel like there's such a huge kind of like breadth of knowledge that you have in a lot of areas to talk about. Um, so what have you been really like working on recently?
Recently, I've been focusing on, the modern male programs that I've put together that, is a coaching program and seminars and workshops that we hold a lot here in Las Vegas where I live, to, take men on an accelerated path of personal growth as well as, accelerated what I call skill sets of working and the dating, in the dating niche and
Right.
pickup niche and giving men, there's a lot of mechanics, I think, that, are in the industry, which are great, taught by some great teachers. And I'm finding more and more of the men that I've been working with have, inner skills and inner game components that are missing to really give them that, breakthrough, with whether it be their self-esteem, self-confidence, their, daily routines, their internal skill sets to really empower themselves on a daily basis to, create their goals. So working with that in the realm of, dating and sex for men to give those skill sets and those tools has been, a big focus of mine recently, which has been phenomenal to see men grow, in this way with the modern male programs.
Yeah, it's I mean inner game especially can be in just confidence in general, self-esteem. That's such an important area because, there's it's always you see a guy and things tend to be, from the outside sometimes it looks like they're really kind of chugging along, and then when you talk to them they oftentimes feel like, well, no, I don't have my shit together. They feel a lot less confident than they might look. What's kind of the biggest problem or challenge you see a lot of the guys you're working with that are facing, when
I
basically
think
when they get started with you?
Yeah, I think the biggest common denominator that I see, in every country that we work in, is, anxiety, fear, insecurity, when going after a goal. And it could be a beautiful woman. It could be a financial breakthrough, anything, but especially in the realm of girls and women, there, seems to be across the board, men of all ages. I don't care if they're, 21 or 61, fear, anxiety, immense amount of, insecurity comes up for us. And I know I've experienced it, throughout the years, and it's a muscle to, really be, built on. And of course, the antithesis, the opposite of that fear is a sense of personal power, of empowerment, of confidence, of certainty, and building that quality within a man's character when it comes especially to the realm of the opposite sex and women and dating and wanting to have more sexual encounters with women. It seems to be across the board, whether somebody wants to get married or have a girlfriend or just have a one-night stand and sex, whatever their goal might be and wherever they're at in their life. That seems to be probably the biggest common denominator that I'm seeing is that experience of paralyzing fear and anxiety that comes over, a man.
Yeah. Anything, obviously you and I went through the process. How bad was your anxiety when you started, and what were the ways you kind of dealt with it?
Shaking. I was shaking. I
Yeah.
would literally, I remember, getting a chance to, when I first started going out, I didn't realize when I had, like we met and experienced a lot of what I call at the time masters in the dating arena, call them pickup artists, call them naturals, call them, just, very, very effective and powerful with women. I just was, I literally would have like my hands shake. I would so much anxiety and nervousness, and especially when approaching a 10, a gorgeous, gorgeous girl that was just stunning, getting tons of attention. And what was interesting, I found that my approach or my experience of this fear and this anxiety and this, I call it panic. I think I just had these like mini panic, experiences, were a reflection many ways of my own worth.
Mm-hmm.
That was how low my self-estimation of my value was, in this, realm of dating, beautiful women.
It's interesting. I've never, I like how you would describe that because I've never heard it explained like that before. But yeah, I guess, I think that's true because the, how you feel about yourself is obviously going to come out. And if you feel pretty shitty about yourself, like that anxiety is going to be a lot worse. Um, I mean, it can be,
Yeah.
it can always be a nervous sort of, situation approaching a woman, especially if you haven't done it in a long time. But I've definitely noticed that some guys are a lot better at just kind of, even if they've never done it before, if they've got a lot of other things going in their life that are working and they seem to have a general sense of confidence that can spill over quite a bit into dating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious. So in terms of, you've always been very successful when it comes to business and marketing. You've always been an entrepreneur, it seems
Mm-hmm.
like.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you get started with that?
I got started with it in my early 20s. I had a mentor that was, worth 30, $40 million at the time. By the time he was in his 30s. And I got really passionate about personal growth and started working for Tony Robbins, doing Tony's sales and marketing, filling up his seminars and his workshops. And working within an independent marketing company, and I got fascinated with personal growth. I got fascinated with coaching and empowerment, and of course, we make our own hours. I work from home in my office, and I can travel when I want to travel, or do workshops or seminars or one-on-one coaching, or work with thousands of people sometimes at once. So it just always hit all my buttons. Freedom. Control over my own schedule, above average income, affluence and prosperity and financial wealth, was, really leveraged, when we, structure it properly. So it had all these benefits that I've always wanted. And it really, of course, motivated me to like succeed and excel in the
Sure.
industry.
Yeah, I mean, because I see that quite a bit. I see the guy there. I think there's a big kind of crossover between entrepreneurial minded guys that get into personal growth that also, figure out how to make it into a business. And it's such a cool kind of sustaining, you're kind of hitting life from all angles, if you're able to do that. And I see a lot of guys struggle when they first get into personal growth or dating, if they're kind of doing the 9 to 5 thing. And eventually, as they get comfortable approaching, as they get comfortable taking risks, they're like, why am I not doing this, in my day-to-day life? Why am I like making this other guy rich, or, slaving away and working towards someone else's dream? But then there's also literature out there that like entrepreneurial mindset is something people are born with. So I'm curious, what's your kind of take on that? Do you think you think you're just kind of like either have what it takes to be an entrepreneur or someone to like go after this stuff, or you can kind of turn yourself and transform yourself into that sort of individual?
Absolutely. I think we can reinvent ourselves into anything we want to be. I think for sure our upbringing, our childhood challenges and obstacles that we've overcome that create our strengths and character, will naturally lend itself, I think, to, working for ourselves, being an entrepreneur. As we own our time, we are creating our own income and results and clients, versus just having a list of tasks we get paid XYZ for. So I do think there's some natural, personality traits that can come into it. But I believe that anybody with any background can decide to reinvent themselves and create a service or a product and sell it, to individuals. Obviously that's what we're doing, is we're either selling a service or a product ourselves to a customer, versus, doing it for a company or being in a support capacity for a company that's selling kind of product or service.
Right.
So I do think, you can reinvent yourself for sure, into being an
Hmm.
entrepreneur.
Yeah. I'm curious about I never realized you worked with Tony Robbins and you're involved in his organization back then. Because how many years ago was that? Like 20 years,
God,
something like
yeah,
that?
it was over 20, uh, over 20 years ago, actually. Yeah,
That
it was
must have been
after he
like
wrote
incredible
Personal Power.
training. What was that experience like?
It was phenomenal because, we're surrounded by, very motivated people that are into, reprogramming our brain and taking responsibility versus blaming, which
Hmm.
is, a big personal growth shift, to find the unconscious areas where we're blaming other people and other things for our results versus, taking responsibility. So you're around a culture of people that are, taking more responsibility, and they're into growing, their brain and building this muscle. Just like, if you go to the gym and you're working out with, competition bodybuilders, why not be, together with a group of people in competition brain builders. So
Yeah. Good point. Did you get a chance to meet Tony or spend a lot of time with him?
yeah, I definitely, met Tony. His time is pretty rare, of course,
Sure.
always with his travel schedule, but definitely learned, a tremendous amount. I was also fascinated by his teachers. I had a chance to work with Tony's teachers, who Tony worked with, which was his primary, mentor when he worked with Herbalife. Tony at 19 was a big star in the MLM company Herbalife, and then he crashed and burned, and kind of his story before he wrote Unlimited Power that made him a celebrity with some of his TV appearances. Then he was working and studied with Richard Bandler and David Grinder, who are the creators of neurolinguistic programming. And
Yeah.
basically, Tony made NLP popular because he was the first superstar salesperson to sell this, personal growth tool of neurolinguistic programming to the public. And he's an amazing salesperson, as we all know.
Yeah, totally. I was involved with Landmark Education back in the day, and they use a ton of NLP and that
Mm-hmm.
sort of training in their courses. Um, so I'm sure I've never been to a Tony Robbins seminar. I've attended one of his virtual ones, one of his
Mm-hmm.
business building ones, but that was amazing. But
Well, the creator
yeah.
of all the Landmark programs, Werner Erhard, is one of my mentors that
Oh,
I
really? Yeah.
absolutely love and admire. And I always encourage anybody, if they could find anything by Werner Erhard, which they can online or on YouTube. I love all of his work as well. I mean, just as much as Tony, but much more underground. And he, was the creator of the EST seminars back in the 70s that actually created, much of the personal growth movement today started around, 1970, that he is really the godfather of, which is an amazing
Yeah,
teacher.
totally. Yeah, I learned about him quite a bit when I was going through those trainings. And those trainings were what really allowed me to kind of start my business. Like I had no idea how to go about sales or marketing or anything like that. And when I went through Landmark and became like an introduction leader for them, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I could see how if I were to do my own courses and programs, I could enroll people and register them into, my trainings. And if it wasn't for that, I mean, there's no way. Plus, Pickup 101 back in the day, which you were involved. Were you ever involved with Pickup 101 directly?
Not directly. I didn't work with them, or for them. I was exposed, of course, to, the organization and the materials. But it's funny because you just said something I think the listeners would love to hear the definition of, which is my definition of sales and enrollment,
Mm-hmm.
which is to move, touch, and inspire somebody, or a woman or a girl.
Right.
Move, touch, and inspire someone so much so that it results in your outcome, an enrollment, a sale, a close, a full close sexually, whatever it might be. And it's interesting
Right.
when we move, touch, and inspire a client or a girl or a woman, seems to be all, pretty similar.
Yeah. There's so many crossovers for sure.
Right.
So give us some, I don't know, give us some nitty gritty on the stuff you've been working on now when it comes to enrolling and inspiring women to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Any sort of, I mean, there's so much we could talk about in terms of fashion, approaching. We touched on the inner game stuff a little bit. What else has kind of been top of your mind recently that you've been working on?
Let's talk about enrollment. Let's talk about, the ability to, enroll a woman or a girl or a person into your desired outcome, whether it be in bed or whether it be a check in hand. And, that definition to move, touch, and inspire somebody, to have that as your primary intention. When we're talking to a girl, as an example, so many people are caught up in, and it's been proven it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And, your tonality, your body language, your level of volume and intention, all these, what's called submodalities and details, within our communication. Sometimes the most powerful thing that we can do to make a girl feel something is I whisper in her ear, and it's a very soft thing, but it stuns her or it stimulates her. And, the ability to make somebody feel something is a primary, I feel, communication intention, to land our communications so effectively that it moves somebody. If it's within a sale, a logical salesperson doing old school closing techniques, so the Benjamin Franklin, the benefits versus the cost, all those things are great, but unless you move somebody emotionally and have them feel something, and have that as your primary intention, you'll start to see, I feel, that whether it be your marketing and business game or it's your sexual game and dating game and pickup game, gets a lot better results when we have that as a primary intention. What am I making this person feel? What's my intention? First of all, what's my exact outcome? What do I want her to feel?
Right. Yeah, that can be a real struggle and challenge for a lot of guys who get into this, myself included, because I was a very kind of analytical, scientifically minded, driven guy. I like processes and step-by-steps and, building things. I like a sort of architect, I love like IKEA plans, basically. Like, you just show me the step-by-step, right? It's like really easy. But when it comes to expressing emotions, that's not quite as obvious, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I find that a lot of guys get hung up on that in the beginning. Was that a struggle for you, or do you have any tips about how to like kind of get out of your head and be able to connect emotionally and exude that?
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the techniques that I teach to overcome our fears and this anxiety, this panic that, has come up within me and many of the men, and guys that I get a chance to talk to and coach is, our primary intention. When I'm really just focused on technique and what I'm going to say and what's going to be my opening line, and then what am I going to say, and all these basic things, it's really focused on me. As opposed to if I just switch my priority, and I would say for any guy, make the priority to focus on giving the girl an experience. Forget about, it's good to have, I think, a basic structure. I think there's great step-by-steps that we can, memorize, at first and kind of have down. But unless there's an intention, like why, the big why, why am I saying this? Unless I'm really clear on my why, the how usually will take care of itself intuitively. Actually, I found that most men, most guys, and again, I don't care if you're 21 or 61, that our body wisdom is so powerful. So regardless of our background or education or lack of experience with a woman, is if I really have, why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I have that outcome clear, I'm looking at getting her to feel something. What's my ideal feeling I want her to feel? I want her to feel happy. I want her to feel elated a little bit. I want her to feel maybe a sense of desire for me. And if I'm clear on that, what's interesting, the mechanics kind of take care of themselves if I'm clear on what my outcome is of what I'm creating within her. And then my intention is one of giving an experience, not one of trying to take. And this really powerful distinction I had found is when I'm trying to take or I'm trying to get something is when I experience the most fear. When I'm trying to give something, when I'm actually trying to give something, no matter what it is, and I'm focused on giving, I either have no fear or a lot less and a big sense of diminished fear, much more confidence and personal power, because I'm coming from a place of giving, I'm impacting the client. I'm impacting the girl or the woman in a positive way to give her an incredibly positive experience. And then it's interesting, my own sense of power comes through. I think it's kind of like opening the floodgates to this powerful river, but it
Yeah,
only opens up when we're focused on giving.
sure. Yeah, the carryover with sales is so direct there too. It's like when you're trying to get something, you just feels like, uncomfortable. It feels gross. It feels like you're trying to like maneuver and very tactically. A lot of the old school pickup stuff was kind of like that too. Some of the routines and stuff were kind of fun. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I remember one of them. I think it was like the cube. That was cool because you're kind of giving someone a cool experience, teaching them a
Yeah.
psychology sort of thing. Some of that stuff
Yeah.
was great, but I think a lot of the guys doing it were so focused on the outcome of it, they forgot to kind of immerse themselves in the actual fun experience of getting to know someone and figuring out their psychology. I don't know. That came to mind recently because I was like, oh yeah, that was fun. I should do that again.
Mm-hmm. It's true. And I think it's like you said, anything that we do, it doesn't matter if we're telling a story, and we're a good storyteller or a bad storyteller, or if we're talking about, a cool psychological exercise like the cube, or what's the other one? Strawberry fields, that
Yeah.
all of these were meant to take a girl or a woman on a mental and emotional experience to get them to feel something.
Right.
Because if we're asking questions like the typical guys, oh, where are you from? And all these basic things, it doesn't make her feel anything, and that's why when, you go into sales, or you go into working with a woman, and, I like to do something called revivification, where I'm revivifying, having her recall, the most powerful emotional experience of her life, or one of them, and tell me about it. So she's starting to go back in her memories and tell me about this experience. And it doesn't matter if it's with another guy, and she's reliving it. She's like feeling all these senses, feelings of passion and joy and all of these things while she's looking at me.
Right.
Because so that type of a question versus the typical ones, where I call one of the principles I teach is revivification. We do it in sales too, in marketing, and you see in advertising all the time on television. But, tell me about a time that you actually purchased this and you had an amazing experience and you loved what you bought, and why did you love it so much? And they go back and they tell you about this, and they give you everything you need to help serve that person and deliver in a very elegant, non-cheesy, non-pushy way, if we just ask the right questions.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of all about asking the right questions, which I find is very similar to a date too. If she's talking more than you, that's a good sign. If you're on a sales call and they're talking a lot more than you, obviously that's it's a
Hey,
very
we
good
got
sign
two
too.
ears and one mouth, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's cool. There's so many crossovers when it comes to sales, and persuasion, dating. It's all very similar. Um, I wanted to ask you. So you've been in the game a long time. Um, what's been your kind of relationship trajectory? And you have a kid, right? Too, or a
Yeah,
couple?
I've got a son. I've got a son now with a girlfriend, from years ago. But I've had, gosh, last 5 years now, I've had two LTRs that I've
Mhm.
experienced. And, again, with each one of them, my awareness and my skill set gets better. My last relationship, we're still very good friends, was definitely the best and the healthiest relationship I've ever had. And again, my personal growth path has been, one of learning how to create, an amazing relationship or a more amazing relationship each time. And it's definitely, a skill set of communication and understanding and empathy and balance and, all, transparency, and so many of the skill sets that many of us were not brought up with. I wasn't. And each one seems to be, better and better. And by far, the last one was the healthiest and most amazing. So I'm always looking forward to what I'm going to create next.
What's it been? I mean, so how old were you when you had your kid?
I was in late 30s. Yeah.
Late 30. Okay, that's like I'm 37,
Hmm.
and I'm starting to hit that kind of biological clock that kind of happens a little bit later for men than women, I think.
Yep.
Is that what kind of happened with you? And
it's interesting. It's exactly what happened with me. Because I know I had the urge, I think we all want the ideal scene, with the ideal beautiful woman that's, the ideal woman that's fun, that's sexy, that's honest, that's ethical, that's loyal, the ideal scene that we all want, and the relationship, and having that, I wouldn't use the word fairy tale, but we'll use that word, that we all ideally want, but hadn't met, the actual woman. And it was interesting because I've got this amazing, thank God, relationship with my son's mom. She's remarried now with another son, really nice guy. We've got this never had any drama, very, very cool vibe. And it was not the way that I had planned, obviously, having a children, but within my lifestyle. And definitely we knew that marriage wouldn't be the right option for us, that we decided, we created some agreements, and it worked out very healthy and very fair. It was fascinating that I didn't have the ideal situation, but it also met the need of procreation. It met the need of having my name, the Vitelli name, live on, because my son, took my name as well. So it was interesting how it met a lot of these biological needs, which is very untraditional and outside the normal box and paradigm. Of course, is where we're going now with more poly relationships and, different types of relationship dynamics that are happening in more single women without marriage, being, impregnated or fertile, or, lesbian couples or homosexual couples, and a different, things that have been evolving over the decades into other paradigms, new frames that are becoming what used to be considered taboo, are becoming more and more normal. He, she, it's, and all of these different types of relationship styles. So in many ways, it was an incredible, incredible blessing. And it was nothing I could ever imagine would have happened in my goals of what I call my vision book or goal book that I create,
Yeah. Did you ever have the goal of, that traditional kind of nuclear family, find the one, so to speak,
Absolutely.
and settle down, the white picket fence, all that?
Absolutely. It's still a part of my, vision. I'll use a big word, but in this though, because now I'm opened up to possibilities that might be beyond my imagination. What if there's something that is better than I can imagine?
Yeah.
And that's, I call it a quantum level of thinking, but I believe in that quantum level lies happiness, because I don't feel that our conscious ego brain can sometimes envision ideally what's healthiest and best for us in 12 or 24 or 36 months. So I think it's good to have an intention and goals, and also be open for other paradigms that might be beyond our conscious brain outcome thinking.
Yeah, that's such a cool way to think about it, because, I know I've often gotten caught up in this, and I speak to guys all the time. We get caught up in the grass is always greener sort of conversations. Like, oh, I love being single. I also love they love the freedom, they love the adventure. But then, when they're single, they're often like, oh, I want to be in a relationship. I like that comfort, the security, building something. But what you said of having like this other sort of quantum thing, maybe you don't know exactly what that is, but you're open to building something like that. It kind of gets you out of that, grass always greener conversation, which is really cool. And it's, I see it happen a lot because, both of us have been around this work for almost 20 years, or you longer, me, almost 20 years. And it's always fascinating to me, like how just watching the guys who have been in it and who've kind of been like a lifelong student of the game, like what sort of relationships they get in and all the crazy shit. Like Adam Lyons, who was like, I think he has 2 girlfriends or 2 wives and a bunch of kids with both of them. So it's like, you name it, you can kind of create.
Yeah, and I don't think Adam
your own personal boat.
He's a great example. I don't think he had that in his goal book, as a conscious goal, but through his process of gaming and meeting, and even I heard, his story recently, again, it happened, but I don't think consciously it was, I'm going to create a polydynamic with XYZ kids. I don't think that was in his goal book.
Well, I had the goal back in the day of having, 2 girlfriends, and it's like, be careful what you wish for. Because I did, I went to Burning Man, came back with 2 girlfriends in 2017, and that was probably the worst month of my life, having 2 girlfriends. So it's, as a guy, a lot of the time you think, oh, I want this fantasy sort of deal. And these were like 2 girlfriends that were living together, that we're all like, wasn't just like 2 different girls that were seeing casually. It was like, no, 2 girlfriends, but that didn't work out so well, but it was a cool experience and a cool experiment, I guess. So, now you're single now.
Yeah. I'm single now. And, it's, having a blast, as they say.
Vegas is crazy.
Vegas is a super fun place to live year round. That's for sure. There's never a lack of activities, of course, or beautiful girls around. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, what's kind of the best thing, or what are some of the strategies you like to promote as far as meeting women in Vegas or elsewhere? Like, you like day stuff, night stuff, social circle?
You know what? I like it all. And I think the more that you do, the more opportunities that you have. For example, some people are just do this or just do that. Of course, everybody has their own personal preference. Myself, I love meeting people in all ways, whether it be through social circle. I meet a lot of people, definitely cold approach. I'll definitely do a club once in a while with some friends, but I prefer a yoga class. And other places, because I love yoga and enjoy yoga. And the type of women that go to yoga are usually a little more aware. They're health conscious. They're in better shape. Online, I think online, whether it be with Match.com, Plenty of Fish, Tinder, Bumble, all the other online dating apps, I think they're great as well. So I believe all of them, and I like all of them. I think
some of the new ones too, like Seeking Arrangements, and some of those sites can be a lot of fun. If you're into like other sort of interesting relationship dynamics, of course. So, especially in Vegas, I haven't, I've used some of these sugar daddy sites quite a bit in Europe and in Southern California, but I noticed there's a ton in Vegas. So could be a fun thing to play around with if you haven't looked at those yet.
I have not seen those. That's interesting, Robbie. Tell me more. It's like fascinating. Really? Okay. How would you? Okay, so tell us, Robbie, how do you use this?
Relationships on your terms is I think what the Seeking Arrangement tagline is. But it's really cool because it's, the kind of the basic idea, and I've talked about this extensively on other shows, so I won't go into it too long, but it's basically, women who are looking for more than just a normal relationship, whether that's a sugar daddy or maybe it's a boyfriend who's in it more of an open sort of thing. But obviously Vegas tends to attract alternative sort of people that are into anything and everything. Lots of money there, lots of people flying in and out. So it's a huge market for that.
Always exciting avenues to try. That's for sure. That's great.
So, what else? Any other special kind of gold nuggets or things that you've been, on the tip of your tongue that you wanted to talk about?
I think that's it. It definitely, if any of the, listeners or people that are viewing this, I'll give them a chance to, if they want to see more of the work that we're doing and the workshops, the programs that myself and my other coaches are doing, they can get more information at online at themodernmale.org, themodernmale.org. And we're doing a free workshops. We've got free videos, free newsletters. Of course, our podcast that you can get on iTunes, The Modern Male, with new episodes every week as well. For a lot more free content on dating and sex and fashion advice are the 3 topics that we really cover, in depth and much heavier even, on the dating and sex advice for men. And some of the paradigms that you had talked about, within these eclectic arenas, from what I would call the traditional sex and sexuality things into alternative things like bondage and BDSM and Tantra and some of the other modalities that are out there we're getting heavily into and simplifying it, in some of our workshops and some of the teachers that we've got teaching with us now, which has been incredibly powerful.
Wow, that's super cool. And do you offer these in Vegas only, or online trainings as well, other cities?
Actually, all three. We offer a lot in Vegas, offer some around the world if we're doing, some type of affiliate or joint venture or workshop or seminar in different countries. And then some of them we do virtually, online. And then some of them we just simulcast. We could be doing something live in Vegas or something over in Europe, and we'll simulcast a webcast of it simultaneously for people as well that can't make the live event.
Oh, very cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Rob. It's been great as always to chat, and we definitely need to hit the links. I keep looking at your Titleist shirt and it's giving me golf FOMO.
We'll get you hitting in the simulator over there in Kiev while you're there until you get on the course with us.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on, and I'll have a link below the show for everyone to check out your stuff, and it's been awesome.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, and have an amazing day.
Thanks for listening. If you want more, go to innerconfidence.com, and don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for the latest episodes.